What's up, guys? It's your girl, Victoria J from 12th Street Talk Back, where transparency is our love language. You guys know that transparency is very important to me because I believe it's the key to bridging the communication gap. Bridging the communication gap in our community amongst our generations has been very near and dear to my heart for a very long time. And I've been working feverishly to spark the heart conversations in our community. As the world changes, people change, life experiences can change us. Sometimes it can be hard to express yourself to the ones that you love. We all suffered something during the pandemic, some more so than others. Life can be like an emotional roller coaster, and that's why I'm grateful to BetterHelp. Thank you, BetterHelp, for sponsoring this podcast. Guys, did you know with BetterHelp, you can tap into a network of over 30,000 licensed and experienced therapists that can help you with a wide range of issues. To get started, all you need to do is to answer a few questions about your needs and preferences during therapy. That way, BetterHelp can match you with a licensed therapist from their network. Then sit back, relax, and you can talk to your therapist however you feel comfortable via text, phone, video call. You can even schedule live sessions. And if your therapist is not the right fit for you for any reason, you can switch to a new therapist at no additional cost. With BetterHelp, you get the same quality and professionalism that you can expect from in-office therapy, but with a therapist that is custom picked for you. More scheduling, flexibility, and the best part of all, at a more affordable price. Get 10% off your first month at betterhelp.com/12th Street. That's better, HELP.com/12th Street. I've also linked it in the description below. Let's start bridging the communication gap together. Welcome back to 12th Street Talk Back, where transparency is our love language. I am your host, Victoria J. Welcome, welcome, welcome. Look at the day that God has made. Let us rejoice and be glad in it. Everyone I see, I know you see that we have a guest this morning, as we always do. This morning, we have Michelle from Pivot Ministry joining us to tell us a little bit about their program over there at Pivot Ministry, the program that they offer to the ladies in the Triad right here in North Carolina. So if you're tuning in locally from North Carolina, put on your seat belts, relax, get this good information. And if you don't need it, perhaps you can filter it out to someone else that does need it. Welcome, 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 Michelle. How are you today?
I am so well. Thank you so much for having us today, Victoria.
You're welcome.
Excited to be here.
I'm excited to have you guys. I met Carol at my church hosted a fair, a health fair, which I intended only to just zoom in, get my mammogram, and something said, just stop and talk and fellowship with people. And it was a pleasure to meet her and get the information. I was just so happy that she decided to let you guys come on and tell us a little bit about your program. So tell me, what role do you play? Tell me a little bit about yourself, Michelle, and what
Sure.
role you play there.
Well, as you mentioned, Carol Polk is our executive director, and my name is Michelle Minnick, and I serve as the program coordinator. And it's a privilege to be on staff here. I'm just here part-time. We have a part-time admin person, and then Carol is our full-time executive director. But my role, going way back, I kind of joke, in a previous life, I was an attorney, and then sort of stayed home with my kids, was blessed to be able to do that. And a few years back, I started praying about, going back into the field, and I just didn't think that going back to practicing law was what I wanted to do. And I was involved with several nonprofits here in town. Pivot was not one of them. I had not heard of it. And then a friend from church said, if you're looking for something, this ministry I'm involved with is hiring. And so that's sort of how I got connected with Pivot. And that was a couple of years ago, and started sort of helping in the office more in an admin role, but was so passionate about what is being done through Pivot that Carol said, I think you need to be more involved with the classes and the program itself, and the ladies. And so I was extremely honored and privileged to be able to take on that role. And so my job is to kind of coordinate instructors and recruit participants and work with the mentors. And we'll get into, I don't want to get too far ahead of myself, but we'll get into some of that later. But anything that falls within the programming areas, that's my role.
Oh, wow. So attorney to Pivot. Well, life changes, things change, and
That's right.
wherever you feel the calling or have the calling where you can serve, that's something that we do as people.
Absolutely.
So let's dive in a little
All
bit.
right.
What is the Pivot Ministry Program? What exactly does it entail?
Well, Pivot's mission is to empower low-income women for better life and work opportunities. And that sounds very general, so I'll kind of break it down a little bit. When we talk about life opportunities, we're talking about things that improve our everyday life, whether that's relational, whether it's self-care, things like that, whether it's your spiritual life. And then when we talk about job opportunities, we're talking about not only skills, we do address some readiness type things in our classes, but also, what are you meant to do? God created us all with different gifts and talents and passions. And the saying goes, if you do something you love, you'll never work a day in your life, right?
Yes.
And so if you are on a path where you have a job, or maybe some of our ladies are at the age where they've retired, maybe it's serving in the community by volunteering. But if you find what your passion is and where your gifts are, and those intersect, I mean, you find joy there.
Yes, you do. That's kind of how I found my voice in this podcast world. Just being a single parent, and the kids are empty nesters, should I say. And the kids are gone off and done all the wonderful things that I used to enjoy doing. And I found myself with a lot of time on my hands, and I like to talk. So at 51, here I am. So like you said, we find things that we're passionate about, and you go on to use those skills. So I am so excited about that program. So as far as helping with schooling, workforce, their Christian, I guess the spiritual walk, I would say. How does Pivot help with those things? How do you go about getting into the program? And
right. Well, I'll go into how we find our ladies in a little bit, but I'll just tell you a little bit about how we fulfill our mission. I think that's what you're asking. And so we do this through a 16-week semester of classes. Every week, the class begins with a 1-hour Bible study. And we welcome anyone into our program. You do not have to be a Christian. You just have to be open to participating in the Bible study.
Right.
So since that's sort of the foundation of Pivot, because we are a Christian ministry, that's where we start our day. And after Bible study, we have classes for the rest of the day. Bible study starts at 9 a.m. And then until 2:45, we have a packed schedule every Thursday. We do this class once a week on Thursdays. And those classes range as I mentioned earlier, from things like job readiness and preparation, where it might be resumes or interviewing skills or computer skills, things like that, that are very practical for folks who are seeking to maybe change jobs or become employed. And then life skills, just soft skills, whether they be communicating. I mentioned, earlier, discovering who God created us to be. And we actually have a whole curriculum built around that discovery process. It's a journey of self-discovery. It's called Life Keys. And our wonderful instructor, Debbie Loftus, takes us on this journey to figure out who God created us to be. And, sometimes we start that series and, addressing the simple question, what are your gifts? What are your talents? And some of our ladies have never thought of themselves as having gifts or talents. And so when they are asked that question, sometimes the answer is, I'm not talented. I don't have any gifts. And the correction or the insight that we can give them is, oh, indeed you do, because God created you. And so we help them along that journey. And when they finally start to see, oh, I'm a good cook, I can use that in my life, whether it's for employment or whether it's to bless other people or to show love or whatever it is. So that journey is fantastic. So much so that my son graduated from high school in 2019, and last summer, he and I went through Life Keys together, because I always say, I wish I would have had that when I was, a young adult. And so that's one of them. We go through things like self-care, what that looks like and how important it is, because you can't pour from an empty cup.
Right.
We go through things like time management or goal setting, how to deal with changes in life, how to make decisions. We talk about emotional intelligence, just so many different things. And so that's what the class day looks like. And we break in the middle of the day for lunch. We have volunteers who bless us by bringing lunch for our class each week. And a lot of times they'll stay and just fellowship with the ladies. And during lunch, we do what we call celebrations, which are basically praise reports, something good that has happened in the last week that we can share and celebrate with one another. And we spend some time praying for and with our ladies. So that's what a class day looks like. But in addition to classes, we also have each of our ladies matched with a Christian mentor who has been trained. And that the purpose of that relationship is to just walk alongside a participant and encourage them, hold them accountable for the things that they have set as their goals. We talk a lot about SMART goals, so just breaking them down into smaller increments that are realistic and timely and achievable and all the things. And so that's how we try to fulfill our mission.
That's a lot packed in there.
It
I
is.
needed you guys when I was coming along. I
That's what I
love it.
say.
I love it. I love the mentorship and just having that person there to hold you accountable for, your goals, because the ultimate goal is to live a better lifestyle, to prepare yourself to have a better lifestyle.
Exactly.
I love it. I love it. I love it. I love it. Well, I guess you just answered my next question. I was going to ask, what was the goals of Pivot Ministry?
Well, I did that's sort of how we, like I said, fulfill our mission. But our goal is, just to summarize and maybe oversimplify, is restoration. Carol goes into this so beautifully, and I'll try to do it justice. But, at creation, it was paradise, right? And then very soon after, there was the fall. And the outcome of the fall was broken relationships. First, the broken relationship with God, right? Because they betrayed and his trust and violated his one command. And they hid from him. And then there was the relationship with themselves that was broken. There was shame. And so they had to deal with that broken relationship, and we do as well. And then there was the relationship between each other where they blamed each other, and we always have issues in our life with other people, right? And so, and then the last one was the resources. They were ejected from the garden, and work became hard. And so those relationships and the brokenness that we experienced way back from the fall carry on through this broken world. And so one woman might come to us and say they want to improve their financial situation, improve their relationship with their resources, right? Whether it's getting a job that might pay a little bit better, or learning how to budget. We do a lot with financial literacy. So that might be one of the 4 relationships that she wants to deal with. And there might be another woman who really has struggled with shame and guilt. And so we try to help someone like that restore their relationship with themselves. There might be someone who doesn't know Jesus, or did and has strayed. And so trying to help them find their way back, and realize that God is still there, right? And so that relationship, or finally, it might be the relationship with other people. If they've had strained relationships in their family or friendships or workplace, just giving tools to kind of figure out how to restore those relationships.
Oh, wow. That is wonderful. That is wonderful. That is wonderful. I love it. I definitely love it. I think that we need more of it out here in this day. Um, I'm actually excited about it. I was telling Carol that, I wouldn't mind coming over and volunteering or taking a day to just tour and see everything that you guys do over there. I just love it. I
We'd
mean,
love to have you.
again, I would have loved to have something like this in my 20s and 30s or whatnot. So, how do you ensure the counseling services, and how accessible are they? And you just talked about a broad view of how faith works with the program. So, I guess my next question would be, you know, to kind of rephrase it just a little bit. Um, I know we're not forcing anybody to participate in the program, but how do we get the young women in? Because it does center around a lot of faith, having that faith and rebuilding and restructuring your life. How do we go about getting the participants into the program?
That's a really great question, Victoria. We depend on community partners and former graduates, church partners, folks like that, to kind of keep an eye out for someone that they think might be benefited by participating in Pivot. So we've had several family members come to us and say, well, my cousin or my sister or my mother went through Pivot, and I saw a change in them, and I would like to do this and see what I can get out of it. And so that happens a lot. We have had other community partners who might serve women in the community who are at a place where they are ready to make a change. Because as you mentioned, it's a lot and it's a commitment, and they have to be ready to, our graduation speaker this past semester said, pivot means to center yourself and turn. And so people have to be ready to and decisive about making that change and being ready to pivot, if you will, in their life. And so it's a commitment. We talk about that. We do an interview with our ladies as they come to us, and just are very frank about, asking them, are you ready for this? And sometimes life happens. And, if somebody is experiencing some kind of crisis or trauma, making a big change in their life, it might not be the time for them. Right. And so we might say, we're sorry you're going through this right now, and maybe these folks can help you through that, and come to us when you're ready. We're not trying to force somebody into something that, if their basic needs aren't being met, that they're not ready for. So, when they come to us, like I said, we're just really honest about what it takes. And yet we are also very encouraging that they can do it. We've had women as young as 19 and as old as 72 go through Pivot. And so it's not really an age thing. And it's just very cool how God weaves together the different classes, because you can just see the reason that, this person's in there and this person's in there. They really form community. So yeah, that's how we get them. And we do ask, especially if they're referred by someone who they have a relationship with, that those folks encourage them as well. So, if their pastor sends them to us, we'll ask him or her to, check up on this woman and encourage her as she's going through this.
Oh, wow. Yeah, you said up to 672. That is wonderful. That is wonderful. I'm soaking it all in. So, and I had a question and it escaped me because I was listening so hard to you. I did want to ask about the ladies coming into the program and being, not something that that you wanted to force on them per se, but um obedience and discipline. It takes a lot of discipline and obedience. That's where my thought was when you were talking. To start they have to really be wanting to start their life over. And as a Christian, I can say, and as a Christian that her grandmother was the pastor of the church, what I ran from, I found out as I was older, it wasn't the fact that I was running from Christianity or God. I was running from the discipline and the obedience. So it has to take a lot of discipline and obedience to be there. So you really have to have a made up mind, because as we know, just walking in normal life, if you don't know Christ, it's hard to be disciplined. And it's hard to be obedient. So I think as you were talking, I was thinking about those two key words that I found myself at when I decided to really take my Christianity walk seriously, was obedience and discipline. And I found that helped me a lot. And we all fall short. None of us are perfect. So in the daily basis, what I'd like to tell my ladies is, if you fall down, you can get back up. The Bible says you can get back up 7 times. But the discipline in that is knowing, oops, I made a mistake, and asking for repentance right then and there. And keep yourself going. Keep filling up that cup until it overflows and brims. So I like that. I love it. I love it. I love what you guys are doing down there. I can't
and I
wait
would
to
just
visit.
add that, in addition to obedience and discipline, surrender is a big one. And,
Yes.
as ladies, we like to be in control. And, I think, especially for women who have faced hardships or traumas in their life, maybe it's abusive relationships, or maybe it's extreme poverty, that surrender it can be scary. Because there's a lot of unknowns. So knowing that surrender to Jesus brings you to a safe place, that's a lot of the growth that happens between Bible study and prayer. And we integrate biblical concepts throughout most of our curriculum. So, even when we're talking about resilience, for instance, which we have a couple of different sessions where instructors talk to us about what that is, and how things like childhood trauma can affect us in our adult life. But knowing that, God's got us, that's a big thing. that's a big revelation sometimes.
It is, and it's hard, even coming from the background, standing on that faith.
Hmm.
Standing on that faith is something that you can't see, especially when you're going through or you have been through something that has traumatized you in life. So I definitely concur. I like that. So, what are some of the challenges you face in the counseling services? What are some things, some areas that you would like to see advance or move forward?
Well, I would say, it's hard to call it a challenge because God always ends up putting it together, but it seems
Mm-hmm.
like sometimes finding the participants for each semester can be tricky because, as I mentioned, somebody has to be ready for it. Um, and if they found out about it a few months ago, has too much time passed, has their excitement waned a little bit, that can happen. But on the other hand, we've had women, actually, we have one that I'm interviewing for this upcoming cohort. She had some major medical issues where she was actually going to have dialysis several times a week. And she really wanted to participate in the class, but her dialysis was at the same time as our class. And so it just wasn't going to work. And it's finally going to work, I think, this semester for her because she's just really, really wants to do this. And so when you see somebody who's that passionate, they're ready, right? And
Mm-hmm.
so that's not always the case, but that can be the challenge, is finding women in that sweet spot, like where
Mm-hmm.
they know they need to make a change, where they're ready to make that change, and life isn't getting in the way. But like I said, as difficult as that can be, maybe for us in our own strength, it's not
Mm-hmm.
for
It's
God,
like,
because
yeah.
like I said, he weaves these classes together, the communities that the women form. It always happens a little bit differently in the
Mm-hmm.
classes, because some women have been through some stuff. And so understandably so, there might be walls up,
Mm-hmm.
where trust is a little bit tough to come by with them. But in the end, it always ends up having this like tight knit community. And we say at the outset that there's a confidentiality, right? So the women, we want it to be a safe space, because some of
Mm-hmm.
the stuff that we talk about can get pretty deep. When you're
Mm-hmm.
talking about childhood trauma and resilience, um, that can trigger some things,
Mm-hmm.
depending on what you've been through. And so we don't ever force anybody to share, but it just happens sometimes organically. And so we want it to be a safe space to share. And the same thing goes with their relationship with their mentors. Throughout the semester, the ladies don't even know um, each other's mentor. They don't know who each other has until graduation, which is kind of a fun little reveal. But we hold on to confidentiality that tightly.
Oh wow, that's great. That's great. That is great. I love it. Using yourself as a vessel. I love it. I love it. I love it. So passions. Is there anything
Mm.
you're particularly passionate about there at Pivot?
Well, I just mentioned community. That's one of the most exciting things to see form, because you're normally talking about a group of women, whether it's a class of 4 or a class of 10, who come together, and they don't usually know anything about each other. They don't know each
Mm-hmm.
other. So that community is very exciting. And also the light bulb moments. And I say that because I'm sitting in the back of the classroom. We usually form the classroom in a U shape so that all the participants are around a large conference-ish table, and the instructor is in the middle. And but I can observe most of them, depending on where I am in the classroom. And sometimes when an instructor says something, you can just literally see the light bulb moment.
Mm-hmm.
And so when you see that and you know that they really just grasped onto some truth and some key element, that's really exciting. And I can give you one example, which took an entire semester. We had a participant who came in and she had been through some stuff and was very sort of closed off. Some weeks more than others, but for the most part, the entire semester. And even 2 weeks before the end of the semester, she called Carol and she said, I'm not going to finish. I'm just done. I'm going to quit. And Carol was like, well, we'll respect that, but we hope you change your mind. And before the next class, she called her back and said, no, I've quit things my entire life. I'm not going to quit this.
Wow. Which
was great. So she came back and you still didn't maybe always see the openness or the reception to the community. There was just some hesitancy there, but at graduation, she gave a speech that we give each of our graduates a chance to talk for a couple of minutes, where she just kind of went through this long list of things she learned about herself and how that has transformed her thinking. And at the time, I know Carol and I were both kind of stunned in a good way and teary and all the things, but I know for a second I was kind of like, well, I hope this is real, you know. This woman has been back every single week. She comes to help us set up our classroom. She comes to our office with little encouraging gifts or trinkets. She texts out of the blue just to encourage and say hello. Or ask for prayer sometimes or whatever it might be, but she really did. It took all semester. It took 16 weeks for that light bulb moment for her, but it was there. So that's really cool.
Oh gosh, you get me teary. I love to hear positive. I love them. All choked up now. Oh, I love it. I love it. That light bulb moment is just something. Everyone has to have that moment in their life. I had mine definitely, and it's a life changer. It's a life changer when you surrender yourself and just say, you know what, God, I give it all over to you. And you start to make those changes. I always like to tell people, and this is something new for me because I myself, I'm really passionate about reaching the younger community and helping our seniors out. And I'm telling people now, and it was just like an aha moment a couple weeks ago. I had a young lady I was talking to, and she said, well, I'm a work in progress. I said, well, why don't we change the work in progress word to say, I'm trying. Let's find one thing that you're in control of, that you know that you can change, whether it's profanity. Catch yourself. You're working on that work in progress. So let's take out work in progress and say, I'm trying. Because the more you say, I'm trying, the more you start to do it, the more you do it. Did you know you can be a leader instead of a follower? Did you know God loves you? Did you know that He cares for you? He's holding you. He's waiting for you to come and just talk to Him. And then with the prayer, you can talk to Him like you talk to me.
That's right.
You can talk to Him just like you talk to me. It's your daughter. You sit at the table of a king, and anything on that table is for the asking. If you need patience, faith, all of it's hope. It's right there for you to ask for. So I love it. I can't wait to come over and just visit with you guys. So, gosh, that was a lot to unpack. That was a lot. So, how do you see the program changing lives? You just told me a wonderful story, so I guess we could skip that.
Let me give you one or two short others. One of our participants came in. She was one of our more mature participants, and she had adult children, and she told us at the outset that she had some strained relationships with her daughter and with her son. And her son in particular, they hadn't spoken in several months. And he lived out of state. And when we were going through one of our series, which is called The Totally Responsible Person, the premise oversimplified of that is, you can't control what's happened to you in life. You can't control other people. You can't control the hand that you've been dealt, but you can control how you respond to it and how you respond to other people and what your reactions are. So we went through that, and at the end of the day, she said, I am not happy. And we were like, well, what's wrong? And she said, well, I just realized I have to apologize to my son. and she's just very funny. But we were like, wow, okay, well, how's that going to happen? Just kind of getting her to think through it. And she said, well, I guess I'm going to have to call him. And so she's a very tall woman, and she came back the next week and she was even taller, the way she carried herself. And I remember saying, well, you look like you're floating on a cloud. And she said, well, I have to tell you that I called my son and I apologized to him, and we talked for an hour, and all is forgiven. And we're going to talk every Sunday. And I misunderstood him and he misunderstood me. And it was just a neat, because that was weighing on her heart at the beginning of the semester. So it was just neat to see one of those relationships restored. And she was so excited about it. And then another woman who came in, and she had a job. She worked full time. She didn't love her job. And so she started kind of thinking about throughout our classes what she could do. And she decided towards the end of the semester that she was going to finish her associate's degree at Forsyth Tech. And I'm proud to say that she did that a couple of months ago and graduated in May.
Congratulations.
And she got a new job where she's using that certificate and loves it, and is working better hours and making better pay. So, it's one life at a time. We're not out here trying to say that we are changing dozens or hundreds of lives at a time. But because of the small community and the importance that plays, one life at a time is enough.
And it's about quantity.
Quality, yes.
Quality, not quantity. I got my
That's
words
right.
mixed up. Yeah, it is. And that's something that I'm working on as I go through this journey of forming the podcast. I wanted it to be locally. Glory be to God, He has blessed it to be worldwide. I'm in 26 countries, but what I really wanted to be was right here locally, be the voice for the community to help in some of those areas, like programs such as yours that nobody knows about. And I had someone tell me recently, I said, I thought I was going to take on the whole world when I came up with this idea. And they said, Victoria, it's about quality, not quantity.
That's right.
So one soul at a time, one person at a time.
And that's how Jesus did it, right? I mean, he had 12 disciples. He didn't have a mega church.
Yes.
So I will say for your worldwide listeners, your national and international audience, Pivot falls under the umbrella of an organization called Christian Women's Job Corps, which is an international organization. And so if you like what you're hearing about Pivot Ministry, look up Christian Women's, or there's actually Christian Men's Job Corps as well, and see if they exist in your area, because there's programs like this throughout the country and indeed throughout the world that are impacting your community possibly as well.
Yay. Thank you. Thank you for that information. So you guys, you hear that, the countries and the different states, look that up. Definitely, if you know someone in your life that just is ready for a change, they have to be ready. And, baby steps, small baby steps. I wanted to throw something in there that I didn't send you over in my outline. How long, you keep mentioning semesters.
Yes.
How long is your semester? How much time during the day and until completion?
Absolutely. That's a great question. Our semesters are 16 weeks. I think I mentioned that. We meet every Thursday for class from 9 until You're done before 3, because in case somebody needs to catch the bus, we want them to be out at the bus stop by 3 o'clock. We meet 4 classes at the Enterprise Center, which is on South Martin Luther King Boulevard here in Winston-Salem. Very accessible. And as our participants go through the semester, they get more and more excited about graduating. And we have a very official graduation celebration because they have something to celebrate. This is an accomplishment going through this program. And so we do hold a graduation, and it might sound like that's the end of it, but it's not, because we have some very dedicated volunteers who lead what we call Pivot Plus, and it's our sort of alumni program. So the women who have gone through Pivot and have graduated are just automatically then part of Pivot Plus. And what Pivot Plus does is they meet quarterly, and they might do workshops that sort of expand on some of the class type things that we've done, or they've done prayer focused things. They've done movie days, they've done service projects, they've baked together, they've done all sorts of different things to they'll pull the ladies to find out what they want to learn more about. So it's partially another learning experience, but it's also fellowship, and coming back together with their classmates and then graduates from other classes and getting to know them. So that's that. We always say you're not going to get rid of us that easily. You're still part of us because we want to follow up with our ladies. We love them. I mean, we develop as much of a sense of community with them as they do with one another. So we continue to foster that. And so, yes, 16-week semester where you have class once a day and you meet with your mentor once a week for about an hour. And that's the commitment during the semester. But then you'll still continue to be a part of Pivot Ministry through Pivot Plus.
That's wonderful. That's wonderful. So after they graduate the program, and I didn't throw that one in there either, do you guys per se help them find jobs, or is that just something that they have the skill set for after they leave the program?
That's a great question. We do what we do, and we hope we do it well. But there are so many other organizations in our community who do things like match with jobs, like whether it's North Carolina Job Works or Goodwill, or we have some coaches, employment coaches that come in and run some of our classes. So they have those contacts. So we really try to, we don't personally help them find jobs. We might pass on job listings that we've come across or things like that. But we do connect them with people who are probably better equipped to do that than we are. Our ladies know that they can come to us whenever they need information, and we might not have the answer, and we're not going to pretend that we do, but we will connect them we have so many community partners, wonderful community partners who do what they do and do it well. So if somebody is dealing with grief, we know grief counselors, we know of grief share support groups in the area that we can refer them to. If somebody comes to us and says, I'm dealing with some food insecurity, we have so many resources that we can refer them to get the help that they might need. And so we are all about empowerment and asset-based learning. So we don't use the word need a lot. We want to encourage people to solve their own problems, but we will try to equip in every single way that we can.
Okay.
Does that answer that question?
That does, it does. And lastly, but not least, does it cost to enter your program?
It costs our participants, our ladies coming in, $0. We supply everything they might need, from notebooks and pens and tote bags and the books that they will get for certain classes. All of that is free. All the materials are free. We don't provide transportation, but that's one of the reasons why we are very careful to locate our class on a bus route,
Right.
in case that's needed. And I hesitate to say it's free because it's not free to us, but our donors make it possible.
Right.
We are a 501c3 nonprofit organization. And so, we reach out to churches. We have many, many individual, wonderful, dedicated supporters who support us financially and with prayers. And we have hundreds of volunteers who make this possible. Most of our instructors, there are just one or two that are paid to instruct our classes, but everyone else is a volunteer. They give of their time and their talents. And they're as passionate as we are about Pivot. So yes, it's free to our ladies. But if you're out there and you're wondering what you can do to help, you can support us with your prayers. You can support us financially. And we've estimated that it takes about $2,500 to put one lady through the semester program. So that gives you an idea of what the costs can be. If that gives you, just sort of a little bit of insight to that.
Oh, wow. Wow, wow, wow. You answered the question. That was my last question to you is could anyone volunteer or did they have to be a part of the program?
No, you don't have to be a part of the program to volunteer. I will say that we are quickly coming up on our mentor training sessions. The first one is going to be Saturday, August 12th. It will start at 9 a.m. and it's going to be held at River Oaks Community Church in Clemens, which is right on Louisville Clemens Road near West Forsyth High School. We will supply all the materials and everything for that. But I do ask that you register so we know how many people are coming to mentor. This is our mentors are women because we're dealing with women. So we're looking for women who are who have a relationship with Jesus and who are passionate about walking alongside some of our ladies. And if that's you, I would encourage you to reach out to us. You can email me at just Michelle, Michelle at pivotnow.org. Our website is www.pivotnow.org. And there's a lot more information on what it takes to become a mentor and things like that on there. But I'm happy to speak with anybody who's interested in mentoring. Volunteering in general, we have so many different avenues and roles. There's a volunteer page on our website. We are looking for some volunteer coordinators to help us because, like I mentioned earlier, we have hundreds of volunteers who give thousands of hours every year to help make Pivot possible. And so those roles are outlined really well on our website, but I'm happy to talk with anyone about that. And we have men and women who fall into all the different volunteer categories, from things like helping to set up for events. We have a guy who does all our graphic designing, another who does a lot of our computer and technological stuff. And so, and then, we have all sorts of other volunteer opportunities as well. And if you know someone who you're thinking as we're going through this conversation might benefit from being a participant, now's the time to have them reach out to us or for you to reach out to me. And I'm happy to make that first contact and let them know a little bit about what Pivot is. And then we do go through sort of an interview process because as we've talked about, it's a little bit of a commitment. And so we just want to make sure that somebody's ready for it.
And definitely because someone else could be there if you're not quite ready for it. Just one small quick question. We talked about the semester being 16 weeks and the hours. Is it from 9 to about 3? So does that, I just wanted to clarify it for my audience that may have a full-time job and still need to make ends meet, but wanted to participate in the class?
Great question. Yes. So we meet on Thursdays, and our first class of the fall semester will be Thursday, August 24th.
My
As I
birthday.
mentioned, oh, is it? Happy
Yeah.
early birthday. Today's my
Thank
son's
you.
birthday.
Oh,
Um,
happy birthday.
Happy birthday, Josiah. Um, it will begin on the 24th of August. We start promptly at 9 a.m. So we encourage folks to get there a little bit before 9. And like I said, we wrap up usually around 2:45 so that if anybody needs to catch the bus on Thursday afternoon, they're down there before 3. And August 24th is coming up pretty quickly. So again, if you are listening and you're like, I think I could benefit from this, and you think, maybe you do have a job. We've had several ladies who have had full-time jobs or part-time jobs whose employers were happy to work around their schedule to allow them to come on Thursdays during the day. And that's our only class option right now.
Right.
So I'm glad you clarified that. So yeah, if it might work for you, reach out. I'd love to talk to you.
Oh, great, 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 great. It might work for me.
You got to come and visit us. Maybe you can come to lunch one day and just get to know the ladies.
Yes, yes, yes. I'm excited. I am excited. I love it. I love the hour of Bible study. I partner with anybody that wants to do Bible study. So I love that. Well, thank you so much, Michelle. I thank you for your time. I thank you for telling the community about Pivot. It was so wonderful to meet Carol and yourself. And I look forward to just a great partnership, getting the information out there, whatever any upcoming events that you might have that you want to share now or even later. Don't hesitate to reach out to me if there's anything that I can do to roll up my sleeves and help just with the program. I think it's wonderful what you guys are doing over there. I really appreciate your time today.
Well, thank you so much for having us. It really helps because we are a younger ministry. We've been around for about 5 years now. And so a little over 5 years. So it really helps to get the word out about what we do, and hopefully more people will be blessed and we have the privilege to working with them.
Well, I'm excited. I am definitely excited about the whole program. My heart is just beating, and just the stories that you shared. I mean, awesome. It's just awesome. I mean, what more
God
can you
changes
say?
lives. You know that.
Yes, he does. He does. He does. He does. So, is there anything that you can think of that we might have left out? Any upcoming events? I know we said August 24th is when the next class starts. Is there
Yes.
anything else you want to tell my audience before we leave?
I'll just emphasize those who might be interested in mentoring. Our mentor training begins on August 12th. And I gave the details of that at River Oaks in Clemens. And then that's most of the training that day, but then there'll be a mini training session the morning of the 19th, which will go right into our first step kickoff, where the potential mentors and the potential participants get to meet each other, which is always kind of fun and exciting. And it's just our celebration to kick off the semester. So that's happening. Again, just get in touch with me, and I'm happy to talk through anything, answer any questions, anything that I can do to be of service. And the last thing I'll mention is we are excitedly looking forward over the next couple of years to expanding Pivot Ministry into our Latina community.
Wow.
And so we've been blessed by a group of recent participants in Leadership Winston-Salem who have spent hours and hours just sort of researching how that might work. And so they're actually staying on to help us kind of determine the next steps for that. So if you are praying for us, we'd appreciate prayers as we go forward with reaching more people.
Well, we'll get it out there. We'll get it out there, and I'll constantly keep you guys in our prayers.
Thank you.
Well, listen, guys, you have heard it here first. Pivot Ministries is located in Winston-Salem, North Carolina. please, all the details, all the show notes, where to go to the website, how to contact Michelle. It'll be in the description below. Um, any questions that you have for me, you can reach out to me. My email will be in the bottom of the description below, and I can forward it to Pivot Ministries. Michelle, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you.
And if you would please stick around. Guys, peace and blessings to you all until next time, if it be in God's will.